Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. So I wanted to discuss about a feature that, well, frankly, I've never heard discussed as far as Tor is concerned. Something that would never really make the feature list if you were going and making a trailer or anything like that. But just something that I find to be sort of an interesting progression in terms of the mentality of this game through its various different versions. And that is going to be spellbook itemization. So essentially, spellbooks in Tor, whenever you get them, they're an item. They're treated like any other item. If the character dies, you can pick them back up. If they're stolen, you can steal them back, but if they're stolen completely and you leave, then they're just gone. Or if the unit is killed and their body is destroyed, their stuff is gone. But this by itself isn't really how the PSP version worked. It's kind of an interesting case where they actually brought this back from the classic version. And it's one of many things that was sort of aiming to achieve that middle ground of the relative simplicity of the SNES version with the simulation aspects that they put in for the PSP version. And the thing is, it's interesting how it's a complete and total U-turn from that PSP version, because, like, when it came to things like, well, like that version, here, let's go ahead and bring up what the issue was originally. So, when we were looking at spells and such in that PSP version, for whatever reason, they decided to make them a consumable. So, for those unfamiliar, since I know there's many folks that that just played Tor and may potentially have been wondering, what happened with certain kind of angry comments here, there, or wherever else. And so the way that the system worked in Tor is that you kind of had a sort of mix between something like Elder Scrolls and sort of its own thing. So, like, you got a scroll at the store, alright? That scroll could be used as a consumable to let anybody use any spell wherever, and then as soon as it was kind of used, whether they learned it in the menu or they learned it out in the field, it just got added to their list. Each one was only usable once, and so this basically meant, let's say, if you changed your mind and, say you wanted Olivia to be something else and, just wanted to change her out of shaman or something, congratulations, that thing is non-removable. It's just there forever. And so this meant if a character died, if you decided to do something different with them, if the build that they were hoping to rely on suddenly became completely obsolete with no actual way forward as the game progressed, then you were in a little bit of a pickle. This is the classic example that I've been using for a while is the Fire Valkyrie. Wherein, let's say, they dedicated into the whole fire tree and whatever else, and they also happen to have trained spears along the way, they don't get an upgrade to their fire spear until the post-game. Like several hundred hours into the post-game, and then you get both of them at once for some reason. So there was a lot of really weird, pacing in that one. I've made a lot of videos covering that particular hilarity, but as far as the spells are concerned, like, this is one of those little quiet changes that sort of falls into that pile of why people appreciate Reborn, but maybe don't necessarily kind of remember why it was that they appreciated certain things. And it's because of the sort of, I don't know, mentally I've always wanted to call it the sort of like two-step process of, like, almost anything in Tor you can explain in a couple of steps. Like, that's one of those kind of complications I've had whenever explaining classes in One Vision, because for all of its complexity, it oftentimes takes a little bit of a while to explain, of like, okay, look, this shield is particularly useful in conjunction with this skill, but also their spacing is important over here if we combine this skill over here, and then we have this particular kind of crossbow over here, which then gives them the range to utilize this other skill over here. There's a lot of, ifs, ands, or buts, and oftentimes I end up going on weird tangents. Whereas when explaining stuff for Tor, it was relatively simple to get to the point. Free spells over this thing, fairly understandable. Situational 50% bonus on said spells if you take advantage of breaking the environment. Okay, we're a couple of steps away, but we still got there. Weapon skills being used in place of the throne skill, essentially combining in items to make use of your weapon skill. Okay, fairly understandable, right to the point. And so usually it's just easier to explain in that way, but when it comes to things like spellbooks, that ability to suddenly say, hey, look, this person has done this up to this point, they have not burned all of their spellbooks, presumably out of privacy or something, they didn't just memorize them and set them on fire, so instead they're just, a spellbook that they have on hand that they can go and give to somebody else, and there you go, bing bang boom, done. It's just kind of another item that you slot into somebody else, and it's a very cozy, it's just a very homey me feeling, you know? It's just that feeling of like, okay, that character maybe died or bled out in the middle of a fight, whatever else, but their stuff is still there, you were able to recover it, and now the next person can take their place. And for a game like this, that's just a very just cozy kind of feeling. It's kind of keeping that importance of it's a constantly sort of fatalistic environment, as it were, but also making it so that there isn't necessarily this enormous run back in order to go replace somebody. It's something that we saw explored a bit with, for example, the newer XCOM games, where they had something very similar, wherein the items that somebody had and even the unique stuff that they had, as long as you recovered it, you were able to kind of continue on with that stuff, but that character might have lost the skills that they gained along the way. And in this particular case, granted, you will get pretty much all of their stuff back immediately, with the exception of their weapon skills, which are easy enough to train back up. But as far as all this stuff goes, it's a very smooth kind of feeling. You know, it's cozy. It's cozy, it's homey. That's one of many things that I love about Tor. But either way, I was just kind of thinking about this sort of itemization of spellbooks. It's small, it's not any ginormous thing, but I don't know, I appreciate it. So I just thought it was neat. Anyway, y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care. And I kind of want to do a bunch of these for One Vision for various features as well. So I'm kind of curious to see what the feedback would be on that. Since usually the One Vision stuff, the folks that are really into that tend to stick around, but everybody else is like, well, I guess I can't touch this mod. You really can, though. I promise you it's a lot easier to get into than you think. But anyway. So yeah, let's go ahead and get back to it. Have a good one.